quickly swings the far side for Metsa. Fire, score! Zach Metsa! The game is over! Zach Metsa!
This is Talking Sense, exploring the week that was, storylines, and what to expect, with the voice of your Merritt Centennials, Mantar Bhandal.
The Merritt Centennials will play the Penticton Vees in round number 2. Hello and welcome to Talking Sense. I'm your host, Mantar Bhandal. Today is going to be a shorter version of Talking Sense, only 2 segments. Obviously, no clips to really play from last week unless the goal call, but that call's gotten a lot of airplay as it is. I don't think it needs any more. But we'll have Fraser Rogers, the voice of the Penticton Vees, come on the show in segment 2. We'll talk about this matchup. But first, how about I tell you what's up for grabs here in round number 2? So the Merritt Centennials play the Penticton Vees. This is their 4th meeting in this recent, the recent decade. And the last 3 meetings have not gone well for the Centennials. They've been swept all 3 times by the Vees. First in 2006 in the second round, then 2012 in the second round, then 2014 in the first round. So not a lot of success against the Vees in the postseason. But I mean, in junior hockey, rosters change all the time. You get different people all the time. So don't put too much into that. The Penticton Vees finished the regular season on top in the interior division standings. 41 wins, 13 losses, 3 overtime losses, and a tie, 86 points. They finished 3rd overall in the BCHL and clinched number 1 seed in the interior division. So what that means is that they got a first round bye. And so the Vees haven't played in a while. In fact, in a time like this, where you're coming off the season ending, or your season finale rather. Now you got to start a second round playoff series, especially avenging a loss in the playoffs like last year, where they got upset by the West Kelowna Warriors en route to their RBC Cup championship. It's tough. The Vees haven't played in a very long time. I don't care how many games they've simulated, whether that's practice, whether that's playing against junior B teams. It doesn't matter. This is hockey, playoff hockey. You can't emulate that. The Vees haven't played since February 24th. That's how long it's been. So I think the Centennials have an advantage here. I mean, they haven't played in a while either, but there's an advantage here that you can jump on these Vees early. This is a much different team than last year, however, so be careful, because last year's team didn't face any adversity really at all until the playoffs, and by then their season was over. This year, this Penticton team has faced some adversity. They lost a lot of games on home ice, which never happens in Penticton, and so there's been adversity there. In fact, at one point in January, the Centennials handed Penticton a loss, and the Vees lost something like 4 or 5 games in a row, and that's just unheard of in Penticton land. So there's been some controversy and some adversity in Penticton this season. And I think that is going to help Penticton in this first round, while the Centennials, coming off that sweep over West Kelowna, will take that momentum into the series against Penticton. And there's that saying that there's no momentum in the playoffs. I beg to differ. You pick up wins consecutively against a team, you start breaking their confidence a little bit. That's what happened when the Centennials played the Warriors. Cole Demers was rattled throughout the entire series. It wasn't until Game 4 that he settled in, and by then it was too late because the Centennials were just too much. It's a whole different animal against Penticton. They don't have Cole Demers in net. They have Matt Robson, and Matt Robson was just phenomenal in the regular season. He played the most games, played 49 games out of the 58 games. They don't have a lot of confidence in their backup, Nolan Hildebrand. So Matt Robson, and for very good reason, you might as well ride the hot hand. Robson is just a fantastic goaltender. Went 35, 13-1, a minuscule 194 goals against average, and he's sparkling 930 save percentage. So that's some very, very solid numbers by a goaltender. He also led the league with 6 shutouts. So the Centennials are going to be in tough against a team like Penticton. The key is going to have to be to rattle Matt Robson. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that, but I know this team will find a way. This is a resilient group. So the series opens up on Friday in Penticton, and then Saturday is Game 2. A 6 p.m. start on Game 2, 7 p.m. Game 1. And Game 2, there will be a fan bus going to Penticton. And the details, basically, it'd be Saturday, $45 gets you a ticket to the game, pizza, and the bus ride, there and back. The deadline to buy tickets is Wednesday at 5 p.m. And to rather buy a ticket, you can contact Teresa Cybrandi, the Centennials game day coordinator, at 250-315-9679. The deadline is Wednesday at 5 p.m. So if you're interested in attending Game 2, please contact Teresa right away and do not delay. To talk more about this first-round matchup, we'll be joined on the phone by Fraser Rogers, the Penticton Vees play-by-play man. That'll be coming up next in segment 2. You're listening to Talking Sense. I'm your host, Mantar Bhandal.
Welcome back to Talking Sense. This is segment 2 with the voice of your Merritt Centennials, Mantar Bhandal.
The Merritt Centennials will play the Penticton Vees in round number 2 of the BCHL playoffs. Hello and welcome back to this abbreviated version of Talking Sense. This is segment 2. I'm your host, Mantar Bhandal. And to talk more about this second round matchup, we're joined on the phone by the voice of the Vees. It's Fraser Rogers. Fraser, how are you?
Great, Mantar. Thanks for having me on, and obviously congrats on the big first round victory.
Man, that was an exciting one, and you know what? That's probably the closest sweep I've ever seen. All 4 games could have gone either way, but you know what? That's playoff hockey.
It's funny when you look at it on paper, as you mentioned, 4-game sweep looks lopsided, but then you actually watch the games, and as you mentioned, there was turns of momentum, potential throughout games 1 through 4. You talk about the triple overtime in game 2, and then obviously in game 4, Stefan Seeger being captain clutch there for the team. It was, it's playoff hockey. It's tough no matter how good teams are. The points and separating the two teams, it's tough to beat someone 4 straight times, and it was a pretty impressive way to close it out for Merritt as well, with a comeback victory, tying it late and then winning it early in overtime.
Fraser, the coaching staff, Fred Harbinson and his assistants, were at all 4 games. The Centennials play the Warriors, and for good reason. It was the most likely matchup for the Vees in the second round. What's a sense do you think the coaches saw in those 4 games that they'll take into the second round series?
That the Merritt Centennials are a very confident group and deserving of confidence, in a group that you just cannot take lightly. Fred Harbinson said on more than one occasion watching those games, the biggest takeaway was this is a group that's going to come out and have their work boots on. That's been the MO of the Merritt Centennials as an organization, under Joe Martin, and before him, his, predecessor, Luke Pierce, hard blue-collar, hard-working group, maybe not the most skilled team out there, but now there's a lot of skill to that lineup, and like the coaching staff said to us, and their takeaway was, 1 through 4, those lines are all clicking, and any line can hurt you right now for the Merritt Centennials. Obviously, Tyler Ward had quite a first round, everybody talking about him, and obviously Seeger with his overtime heroics, and Michael Regish even as well, and guys like Nick Fernandez down the lineup, Kate Gleekle showing up, Henry Claycorn, those guys all, coming together. That's what you need to do in the playoffs. So I think the Vees know this is not going to be a team you can take lightly. Like, you're going to have to have, a lot of respect for your opponents. You have to, no matter who they are this time in the playoffs, because they're there for a reason. It's round 2, and they got there, in their own fashion. But watching the Merritt Centennials, and me watching most of the games online, seeing one in person as well, or watching game 1, my takeaway was this team's confident, they're rolling, and you can't make a mistake, because if you do, they're going to make you pay. It's a very, very savvy group that Luke Pierce, Joe Martin has underneath them right now.
Fraser, the sort of, retribution for last season's unfortunate finish starts with this series. I mean, this is the first playoff action since last year's disappointing finish. You were with this team last year. Obviously, last year was a much different team than this year. But do you think there's a sense where the guys in that Penticton dressing room know that this is their first playoff game and it all starts with this?
Yeah, you're right. And first and foremost, the guys that returned last year, like Owen Songers, Nick Jones, Taylor Wards, Griffin Mendels, we go down the lineup with returning players, Gabe Bast as well. They know last year stung. It stung big time in round 2, losing to the West Kelowna Warriors, and in dramatic fashion. And that shows you round 2 is business. It's not a gimme that no matter who you play it. And like you said, Merritt's going to be battle tested. They've gone through the ringer already. I know it was only 4 games, and by the time puck drops for game 1, it'll be about a 10-day break for Merritt as well. But still, they're going to be a team that's gone through the ringer, as I just mentioned, battle-tested, whatever superlative you want to use to describe it. They'll have more team action readiness than the Vees, and that's the one biggest obstacle for the Vees coming into this series will be, the rest versus rust. Is it a good buy in the sense they got healthier with guys getting a chance to get healed up and get back in the lineup, or are they going to be on their heels a little bit, maybe in game 2, or game 1, I should say, of round 2, with a Merritt team that might be a little bit more just used to the grind right now in the playoffs. So I think that's a big question that we won't get an answer until game 1. And early on in Game 1 will probably show you how ready the Vees are. I think they've done a great approach to the bye with how they structured it, almost like an extended training camp with off-ice training, days off, on-ice drills, short in high-intensity practices as well to keep the guys dialed in. But for me, as a media guy, for a lot of fans, I think in Penticton as well right now, Mantar, it's that rest versus rust. That's the question. What will we see? And I know the coaching staff had a great plan in place, but it's all about how the players go about executing it now this weekend, and we'll wait to see what happens in Game 1.
But, Fraser, when I see the lineups, these are two very similar teams in the sense there's a lot of depth. 4 forward lines, either team can throw out there, 3 defense pairings they can throw out there, and great goaltending. Matt Robson, a fantastic season in net as a 20-year-old. Jake Berger, not to be done as a 19-year-old. I have to ask you this, Fraser. I need a prediction from you. Who wins how many games?
You know what? I'm going to make you cringe here because I don't do them. I just do not do predictions for that reason. It's too much bulletin board material, and I've stuck to my guns for about 7 years now doing this, and people hound me as well around the BCHL or even around Penticton fans. What's the series? My one guarantee, it's not going to be one-sided. I'll say that. It's going to be a tight series. I know it's 1 versus 5 when you look at the seeding. I don't really see Merritt as a 5 seed. There's a lot more respect for Merritt in Penticton than what you see maybe on paper when it comes just to where these teams finish. The staff, the players aren't going to take this group lightly. For myself, I think it's going to be a series that's going to be a grind. Like you just talked about, a lot of depth on both sides. They both play a similar style. We like to roll lines. Joe Martin likes to roll his lines. Merritt, Jake Berger, when he's on, can be considered one of my top 5 goalies in the league. I'd put him in there when he's on his game. And obviously Matt Robson goes without saying his track record this year, and now first start of the month in February nationally in the CJHL. So I think it's going to be a series that's going to come down to managing mistakes. That's the cliche alert right there. But my one prediction is it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a tough series, and I think it's a series that's going to, have some length to it. I'll put it that way.
Well, Fraser, I respect that opinion. Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate that as always.
No worries. Thanks, Mantar, and look forward to seeing you. Look forward to being in Merritt. It should be a great atmosphere.
That was Fraser Rogers, the voice of the Penticton Vees. It all starts off Friday, a 7 p.m. puck drop at the SOEC. That's a wrap for today's edition of Talking Sense. In case you missed the earlier edition, you can find this online now at the Centennials blog at q101.ca. For Talking Sense, I'm Mantar.